Here's my baby.
I do too. I like it when you're tapping away on it.
Your baby? What's your baby?
My computer.
Oh, it's not working?
No, I left it with the sitter, I guess. It's sitting on the table.
Oh, God. Oh, sorry to hear that.
Illegal session.
Okay, so the meeting is beginning at 6:16, is that correct?
Yeah.
And it seems that Andrew has graciously agreed to continue his note-taking.
Yay, Andrew!
And we need a timekeeper. Anyone for timekeeper? Anyone for
I'll do stack.
stack? Okay, sure, anyone for stack?
Yeah.
Stack.
Okay, we need a timekeeper.
No.
Hey, Bob.
Hello. Stack keeper is Sean.
I guess it's gonna have to be
You're gonna be a timekeeper?
You? Linda?
well, does anybody have a good one? I have. All right, I do have. I'll give it a try. If I fail,
Agenda, this meeting was called to complete the motion.
Right, the motion referred to us for consideration.
So let's get to it.
Oh, I'd like to add an additional item, to finalize, Monday's report.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what are the two things now?
The motion for the LSB,
Motion for LSB. Oh, and finalize the show.
Monday.
All right, and the motion for the LSB, is it understood that it includes consideration of Albert Solomon's motion, or do we add that?
That's a good question.
I mean, because, the question, the issues he raises are part of the things we have to consider.
So why don't we just take a poll vote? That Albert's motion be considered as part of the consideration of the whole motion rather than a separate.
Oh.
And how many agree to that?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4.
4?
How many oppose?
All right, let me get this. All right, how many?
1.
One opposed?
Any, I guess abstention? Abstain?
Yes.
Raise your hand, please. 1, 2, abstain. 3 abstain.
Abstains. 3 opposed.
1 opposed
1 in favor.
and 4 in favor. Do we have copies of the notes of the
We
ones
have,
that you put into the listserv?
what we have in the, the May 23rd notes include the summary so far in that, to that point. And then the production plan, no, that is, and then June 14th?
26.
And June 6th includes more.
May 23rd and June 6th. Do we have copies of these notes here?
I thought the copies were made of those notes. June 6th and May 23rd, right? And
I thought you were making it.
Oh, well, they're not made.
oh, sorry.
Okay.
Okay. We have Albert Solomon's and we have the production plan.
Okay, let me run and make copies so that everyone can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm sorry.
Thank you. We may need more, Kathy. I'll let you know. So. I hope I didn't forget. We didn't make any decisions last time. Last Friday. We didn't make any decisions about the motion. We just talked about the program, right?
Yes, that's why.
Oh, because I was thinking, oh my God, did I forget a summary? I need to. Okay. Right, it was the lower down.
Is this fortification?
Yes. No, Dave, I didn't sleep all night, so. Well, I did eat something. I had some yogurt. I'm sorry, this is what I'm asking. Didn't you bring a novel last week that you said was great? Or recommending highly? And was it by,
One, two or three like this, but how recently was it?
I think it was 2 meetings ago, but I think it might have been, but have you been reading
Well,
this
there's
person
another
in a
novel by
row?
the same author, which I much prefer this one. I really can't say that I really cared too much for this particular one. It didn't really quite pick up me about halfway through, and even then, the other novel of his is Snow. Snow.
Oh, wow, I don't remember that.
When I was riding on the subway and I showed this to somebody, and a couple sitting next to me spontaneously broke in and said, "Oh yes, that's a terrific book." Yeah, but the author is Orhan Pamuk. P-A-M-U-K. It's a Turkish. Orhan, I think, is a pretty common Turkish name. And he has like 8 or 10 novels out.
You're right. Drowsy there.
But Snow I know is good.
Oh, really?
So that was probably the one I thought.
I must visit, but that's what it was ring a bell. Were you reading another one of his recently?
Well, I just finished Snow and I started this maybe last week or so.
Oh, okay. I guess it was Snow.
The one before that, I was reading Satanic Verses. Well, you also might want to read Midnight's Children by Salman Rushdie. In fact, in Tariq Ali's Clash of Civilizations, he specifically recommends Midnight's Children.
Right, with the normal old-fashioned procedure.
And also, Saudi writer,
How long is
exiled
the
Saudi
fund
writer
drive
named
gonna be?
Bouif,
July 11th to the
the
28th.
Cities of Salt.
Full fund drive?
I think it's like
Supposedly
something like
the goal
a
is
double run
300,000.
on Bouif.
For a full fund drive, it's only 300,000.
Yeah, they make up the shortfall.
Right. What were they pushing? Money Masters?
No, I read that.
Yeah, that was the big thing. The surprise big thing that turned out this last week.
he said.
And then there was another by Lee himself.
And I know that Peggy and Janet, did well when they
Sultan.
did they play excerpts of it when they were pitching?
They submitted them.
Sultan in Sicily or something like that. At a time when Sicily was under, when Sicily was nominally under Frankish rule, the population was mainly Muslim.
And it could be you don't want to do that.
What did you
I
say?
think it's Sultan in Sicily or something like that. But you just look up at Tariq Ali and look at his. It's one of what's
When is the,
Oh, he thinks.
One's at 6, one's at
Do you have a copy there? One's the 6th and one's the 25th.
They're two separate dates that I'm giving you.
My house is going back down.
Do you want to take time to review the notes, everyone? Yes? No?
No. Because we're going by, we're basically picking up where we left off.
Okay. Which I seem to remember to be the one on the committees. Is that correct?
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, there was a sentence we were going to add in there. There was a sentence we were going to add in there.
To the fifth paragraph, okay.
Right, to incorporate committee reports in paragraph 5.
What page is the motion?
That's on page 2 of 6 for
Say I was speaking of it?
June
Oh,
6th.
I'm sorry?
I'm talking to Marguerite this time.
Page 2 of June 6th.
The note was on part of the June 6th meeting.
Right, page 2 of 6.
All right.
It's a radio committee.
Yes. Radio report.
No, speaking to Claire.
Is that okay?
No, I'm doing something.
Oh, you're on, going to record? Okay. See you. Excuse me.
Nothing wrong with being cordial. As I can tell.
Good to hear.
In other words, just to add in this paragraph, I'm looking at the wrong thing. It's on, which will include brief updates on the work of the LSB, network, can be in dialogue with list of included committee reports in that list. And I see it.
You're talking about this paragraph.
No, the next one.
The time allotted to reports will be? That's what we're up to?
We're working from this referred thing that doesn't say hold on top of it?
Yeah, it does say old.
It says hold. I guess I got it wrong.
Doesn't it? Isn't that the one we're
It says
on?
promotes motion for on-air LSB reports.
Yeah, that's what we're working on.
Okay, and it doesn't have the
We're
word
not,
hold
we're
above
not
it?
working on the one that says old?
No.
They're very similar.
I think they are, but-
Yes. One hold.
There are
Because I
some,
remember this was the first draft that we came up with, isn't it? And then, once we came up with the draft,
I've been carrying this one around from the beginning. The proposed
Yeah, the
motion
old.
for-
That's those who have old on there. That's the one.
that's the one we're
Yeah, when we
working on.
started.
No, that's not the one I've been working from.
I said those who have the word old on it. That's
Oh, it's the same thing.
what we're working
Oh,
for
It's
here.
very similar.
I don't have
This
that
is-
one.
I know, so we got the right
Yeah.
one though.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It's the same thing.
Oh, it is the same.
That's what I'm telling you.
Okay, then I don't need, thank you. I mean, because here I am taking notes for the committee, I mean, thank you.
It's like a few different words, but they're very simple. Where are we when we're working together? This was the one that's actually here. Very simple.
All right, so we're working on that. We said we're going to insert committee reports in paragraph 5.
Okay.
So the time allotted for reports will be 2 hours, which will include brief updates on the work of the LSB. I guess committee reports can go there. Network, PMB, the bylaws revision process, that's no longer relevant.
So, where will you suggest we put committee reports?
Right after LSB.
After LSB?
Mhm. Start local and then go further out. LSB committee reports, network, PMB.
But I'm,
As well as announcements of board meetings and events.
so where are you going PNB to as well as announcements, is that what you think?
Yeah, we don't need the bylaws revision process, that's no longer relevant.
Why we're no longer revising the bylaws?
I think there are.
Is there supposed to be some kind of
Well,
bylaws revision still is taking place?
The piecemeal, but at the time this was written, there was planning to be a convention last year to look at a lot of changes. Now it's just one at a time.
Oh, so there's not gonna actually be a convention?
There will be eventually, but the date has been set. It'll probably be next year. So,
So you want to, so you're,
I don't like that.
so you're proposing we take out
And the
bylaws revision process?
Right.
But I think we should have some terms that are more, this is just narrow. I mean, I think it's not that they should take that out, but whatever we say should allow for all kinds of events and things that could be happening. You know what I mean? This is just says the LSB, the network, the PNB, and announcements.
Of board meetings and events.
Right, but there's other things to talk about. I mean, like we said, the bulk of the work that was going to be.
Well, it says
issues
here
based
which
on-
will include.
Okay, so you think it's not narrow, you don't think it's constraining us to those sorts of things?
What would you propose?
So I'm trying to think.
Not limited to.
Oh, yeah, you could say that. But as well as,
Which
I
will-
mean, something, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, what were you gonna say?
Something like as well as, issues of immediate interest or need or urgency or development or, something like that.
So, what about this statement, but not limited to? The time allotted for reports will be 2 hours, which will include brief updates on the work of the LSB, committee reports, network. Should that be PNB network? Is that the network we're talking about?
No, PMB network refers to the 5 stations and affiliates. PMB means the Pacifica National Board.
I'm not clear. Sorry. It says LSB,
Right. Comma.
committee reports, comma, network.
Comma. The network is the 5 stations.
Right.
The PMB is the board,
right.
the national
Okay.
board.
Okay. That's 5 stations. Okay.
What?
As well as announcements of board meetings and events. At least half of the remaining time in each hour will be devoted to listener calls. Okay, and what was the suggestion that you were just talking about?
I was saying, issues of immediate significance of development or urgency, something like that. I'm sorry. Committee reports, network, as well as announcements. Is that what you have to?
Well, here's the question: do we want to insert and issues of urgency or development there, and then go as well as announcements of board meetings and events?
Does that cover it? I mean. We can do that, but
Yeah.
we can do that.
Okay.
So what's the wording?
Committee reports, network, PNB, issues of immediate significance, development, or urgency.
Issues of immediate development.
Well, I said significance, development, or urgency. I'm not ready to tie up this one. I mean, I'm trying to think of allowing for all kinds of discussions, you know. So significance.
Issues of immediate significance.
So,
So do we need to say immediate issues of significance, development, or what was the third one?
no, we don't need all of them, I guess.
No,
Urgency.
significance.
Urgency. Issues.
Because
Time sensitive.
Well, immediate implies all of that. If it's
No.
immediate, it's
So you
Immediate
Urgent.
significance. That's it.
issues of immediate significance.
I don't think that's English.
You don't think that's English?
Issues of immediate significance.
Why can't it be English now? Well, what do you think it should be?
Yeah. What did you say?
Well, I was just thinking immediate significance. Urgency. But does it have to be like an emergency?
No, it doesn't.
But just in today, immediate can be an. Yes.
I mean, I don't want it to be necessarily an emergency, but but does immediate significance mean like that sounds urgent only?
To me.
I guess we must have something. How did we said
Why not just issues of significance to the LSB and the PMB?
Oh, okay.
Is that possible?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Issues of significance.
To the,
Frank?
you said LSB?
LS, well, I guess I guess all of the above. What is it? The LSB, the committees, the network, or the PMB? You know, if any of those bodies have something significant happening, we should be able to bring that out, whether it comes from the committee, the PMB, the LSB, or the networks.
Right. Or the broadcasting media, or there's a lot of other things too, things that impinge on us from the outside. But I guess that would be included, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So if you say, will be 2 hours, which will include brief updates on the work and issues of significance, well, you have an and a two. I mean, could you put them both in the top? So I don't want
Brief updates and issues of significance on the work, is that what you're saying?
No, I was saying, I'm sorry, brief updates on the work and issues of significance. I was thinking brief updates will include see, you don't want brief updates necessarily. Why do you want to
So
say
just make it second. The time allotted for reports will be 2 hours, which will include brief updates on the work of the list, issues of significance, and announcements of board meetings and events.
What do you mean? Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Issues of significance.
So when you said the list, that means LSB, committee reports, network, campaign. Correct?
When I say what?
The list. You were
Yeah,
using shorthand.
I was referring to that
Okay.
list, yeah.
Okay.
So this is what I have. The time allotted for reports will be 2 hours, which will include brief updates on the work of the LSB committees,
Committee reports.
committee reports. That doesn't make sense. On the work of the LSB.
All right.
On
Work of the LSB committees,
committees,
network,
network,
KMB, and issues of significance.
issues of significance, I would put.
And announcements of board meetings and events.
Right,
Oh, you get rid of the swale.
yeah.
All right. Okay. And then at least half of the remaining time in each hour will be devoted to listener calls.
I would just say at least half of the time allotted will be devoted to listener calls.
That sounds good to me.
Okay.
Does everybody?
At least-
No one's objected, but.
At least half of the time.
A lot.
Allotted.
Half of the allotted time.
Half of the allotted time.
30.
Half of the allotted time.
Will be devoted to listener calls.
Okay. Yeah, that's nice. At least half of allotted time will be devoted to listener calls. Okay. Okay, the other thing, when we were talking earlier on in our talks, the first meeting, we spoke about different possibilities for doing the reports, that it might be 1 hour reports
Yeah.
twice a month as opposed to 2 hour reports once a month. That was something that we had
No, I brought
come to
those,
the.
I brought those ones too, so we could talk about them, so because there was a question of one roaming, one not, 2 hours and 1 hour, there's other.
But I guess that wouldn't be precluded because it says 2 hours. It doesn't say it has to be 2 hours together. This doesn't say that.
Right. But we were even considering 3 hours. Broadcast. I mean, there are a lot of things. Some varieties, the list was, at first,
You don't have
2 hours a month.
An extra what?
10. And please,
Oh, you have?
Then we give it back.
I gave it back.
No, you
2 hours a month, 1 hour, alternate weeks,
I have another thing.
each month.
Oh, yeah.
2 hours of a fixed slot a month, 1 hour of a fixed slot and 1 hour of roaming, alternate weeks.
Voila.
We even consider 2 hours, including 1 hour of listener calls, and 1 hour of just discussion of the information.
So do you want to include that list as possibilities of when the reports were there? Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, I was just bringing it up to see if we wanted to, or if we wanted to, if we wanted to put that possibility in here of how it would be distributed or how it could be requested, not that we would be able to decide.
Right. Because that's Bernard's decision.
Yeah. I think what the original discussion was a proposal that we try to do the program, and the discussion was if it were in a regular time slot, that the listeners would be able to know with certainty where and when they could find it, either live or on the audio archive. So that was part of the argument. Did we want to consider asking for a permanent monthly slot for this show? That was my recollection. Please have
Well, I think what we were going to do is go through this and decide, consider each one, and then
Okay, so it's not, I'm
bring it
not,
into a whole motion.
I'm not suggesting that we write it into that piece, but I just recalled it. All right, so do we want to vote on what we've come up with so far? Any other suggestions?
Yes, you mean for changes in this one sheet?
In this,
Yes.
in this one paragraph,
The one paragraph? No, that's fine.
are there any other comments or suggestions for that paragraph? We're doing paragraph 1, 2, 3. Actually, paragraph 5 as it appears on the old.
Right, it starts with the LSB.
No,
No.
the time allotted for
Time
reports.
allotted is where it
Okay.
starts.
Okay.
All right, so could you read the paragraph as it currently exists so we can take a poll?
The time allotted for reports will be 2 hours, which will include brief updates on the work of the LSB, the network.
No.
Committees.
Oh, sorry, I'm not reading them, remember. The time allotted for reports will be 2 hours, which will include brief updates on the work of the LSB committees, network, P&B, as well as, and issues of immediate significance. I'll start again. The time allotted for reports will be 2 hours, which will include brief updates on the work of the LSB committees, network, the P&B, issues of significance, and announcements of board meetings and events. At least half of the time allotted time will be devoted to listener calls. Ashley had it written correctly. That's what we said so far.
You have it written correctly?
Yeah,
I think if you put LSB and its committees, it would be clearer, because it sounds like you're wondering if it's LSB and committees or LSB committees.
LSB.
We want both, right?
Oh, yeah, that's
And
good.
its
LSB
committees.
and its committees.
Okay. Of the
Yeah,
LSB and its committees,
and its committees.
the network. Should we say Pacifica Network?
Oh, yeah, maybe we
So-
should. Pacifica Network, we should probably write out Pacifica National Board. The Pacifica.
No, I think the PNB to me, I know what that is, but network to me, I didn't know immediately what you meant,
Okay,
though I should have.
that's not what it's. I think you're right, Pacifica Network, and then you don't have to say the Pacifica National. The PNB, issues of significance,
announcements of board meetings and events.
Then it says,
At least half of the allotted time will be devoted to listener calls. Okay. Are there other suggestions for this paragraph? Any other? All right, so I have the time allotted for reports will be 2 hours, which will include brief updates on the work of the LSB and its committees, Pacifica Network, PNB, issues of significance, and announcements of board meetings and events. At least half of the allotted time will be devoted to listener calls. Okay, so can we take a vote on accepting this paragraph? Can I have a show of hands for all who vote to accept this paragraph as it was written?
just now.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
And opposed? 2, 3.
Frank, do you have the sign-in sheet for Carolyn?
All right, so the next paragraph is one that we amended at an earlier meeting.
Preferred by committee.
The LSB recommends that its live on air report be rotated throughout the programming schedule in such a way that it does not repeatedly affect the same programs.
That was already revised?
Yeah, we worked on that in an earlier meeting.
Okay. Is this the revised
Yeah.
paragraph?
no,
No,
he
that's
just
the-
read. Read it again. Can you read it again,
The
please?
LSB recommends that its live on-air report be rotated throughout the programming schedule in such a way that it does not repeatedly affect the same programs.
Oh, I see. So the original is right below it. And this is the revised version here.
No.
Because the original recommends live on our reports be rotated between morning and afternoon and scheduled in such a way. So
That was like-
Oh.
this is the original paragraph.
Mhm.
Is below the one that was already
And
rewritten.
the revision is throughout the schedule because we did discuss the desirability of having live reports after midnight.
That's why throughout the programming schedule.
Okay.
In such a way that it does not affect
Does not repeatedly affect
or repeat.
the same program.
Correction here,
Yeah.
the apostrophe from its has to come out. That's a possessive,
Oh,
no apostrophe,
It
ITS.
is.
So I'll put it in.
That's a typo.
That's what we added.
That's the same.
Okay, so maybe this is where I should have brought up my recollection that we had talked about the possibility of having a stationary slot.
Yeah.
You know, so that it would be in the same place and time every month.
Right.
So do we want to make room for that possibility, or do we,
Yeah, I think we could.
can we have a discussion on how people feel about that? I think we should.
Yeah, question, I have a question on
Hmm?
that. I have a question on that.
Yeah.
There are some slots throughout the schedule that rotate anyway now, right?
We have rotation slots. Yeah, we have rotations on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. There are existing rotations in the schedule.
Can you say what they are?
Well, they wouldn't affect us because there's already something in it. But the Wednesday 11 o'clock slot is a rotation slot. The Thursday noon, well, the Thursday 11 and noon slots are rotation slots. And the Friday 11 a.m. slot is a rotation slot. the Monday evening, 9 to 11 is a rotation slot.
See, if we
And those
left
are
the
the only ones
language
I
as
can
it
think
is, that would be covered, because it would not repeatedly affect the same program. If we were
I'm sorry.
slotted into one of
Yeah.
those slots, correct?
I was just gonna say, it sounds like we're comparing apples and oranges, because one is rotating different programs in the same time, and one is rotating a program into different times of the day and night, so it's not the same thing. So I was wondering why one was relevant to the other.
I think what we had, some of the things we had talked about was, and that's how we got to the one fixed and one roaming slots, so that at all costs, there would be one place in the schedule where people can go to find out. They would know where the program was. They could go to the website and know where the program could be found. And that was one of the suggestions. And the other suggestion was that it would be better to have it roam through the entire schedule and not have a fixed slot.
How about a compromise? And that would be, take 2 hours a month, have 1 hour at a fixed time, and the other hour roving around the complete schedule. So you have both the opportunity of exposing the report to a broad spectrum of the listeners, listen at various times. And you will also have, however, for those who have a reliable place to get their information, a fixed slot. Now, since the LSB would be using that slot only once a month, I think it would be excellent if the program director would designate that slot as a place for trying out new programs, or for various rebroadcasts of things recorded elsewhere, as for example, the Doomsday on Broadway, and that sort of thing. In other words, a 1 hour per day, or 1 hour, yeah, 1 hour per day, which would be used once a month by the LSB, and the other 3 weeks for other things.
Yeah, that's the idea, because there are already other things in those rotations. So there's no, so if it were an open slot, then it would be 4 empty, every week would be empty, but there is nothing like that.
So there's no
The
way
only
of
slots-
inserting one program in there once a month?
Yeah, that's the whole idea, that's the question.
So I would repeat the suggestion that we do aim at one. See, I'm not sure if the attention span of the listeners will encompass 2 hours. So it might be smart
Why not?
well, they're listeners and they're listeners. I mean, some have other things to do with their lives. It might be worthwhile, I really think, to try to get the best of both worlds. One is the fixed place where you know reliably at a certain time you get the latest on the LSB report. And for those who, for whatever reason, don't tune in at that particular time, there may be places where they can't tune in, they get a chance of hearing the LSB because that other hour is rotated to various points around the clock.
Well, we did consider a configuration like that too. Also, we considered it like a lopsided one, 2 hours and 1 hour, like 2 hours roaming and 1 hour not, or vice versa. Or also we considered alternate weeks, twice a month, 3 hours altogether, 2 hours in one of the weeks and 1 hour in the other one, in the other alternate. And 1 hour one could be entirely listener calls, entirely listener discussion. So it would be like the first week of the month we have an LSB report, and the third week of the month for 2 hours, and the third week of the month we would have an hour of listener calls that LSB people answer questions.
I Are you keeping the staff?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, but there wasn't.
Just a very small point. I don't know the plans for archiving the LSV reports, but I would suggest they could be kept permanently.
That's a good solution too.
I missed first speaker.
Two minutes per speaker.
All right, so what was your suggestion
Okay.
here with this paragraph there?
Okay.
Do we want to list some of the options for various time configurations and say that the ultimate decision would be made by Bernard?
Yeah, I think that's a good solution. All right. Any other comments about that? No?
Yes.
Andrew?
Can we just finish, because there's like 3 sentences left. Can we just finish these things and then decide
Go
how we
back
want
to
to
that?
shape the whole thing and where we want to put ideas like that?
I don't
How we want
understand.
to-
So you're talking about the 2 last paragraphs?
Yeah,
In consideration of fair election campaign rules?
yeah. There's like 2 sentences that I don't think there will be any objection to.
Yeah, I want
Yeah.
to change it.
Oh, all right.
Oh, I want to change the
Great.
last paragraph.
Great.
Instead of in
Yeah, I-
consideration of, I would have consistent with
Another county heard.
the fair election campaign rules.
Before we just rush ahead, can we take a poll of whether or not we want to move to the last 2 and come back
Okay.
to the LSB recommends? So how many want to move forward to take the next 2 paragraphs before deciding on the final? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yes. And oppose? No? 0 opposed? So is that an abstention? Abstain? 3 opposed? Huh?
Well, you can count me as a yes, I just wasn't paying attention.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
So
all right.
that's-
It was an inadvertent
So let's go
abstention.
to the next paragraph to work on the language for that one.
Yeah, I wanted it to be consistent with the.
Hold on, you're not on the stack yet, right?
Well, there is no stack
There's no
there.
Is that stack yet? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll try it
again. Consistent with the fair election campaign rules. Now, and my next correction will be, I don't think it should be, no, I think it should be all listener members who are eligible to run for election shall be disallowed from participation in any on-air reports. In other words, I changed it from no to all who are eligible will be disallowed. Because it should be in the positive, not in
No, I think yours is the negative. I think this is the
It
positive.
reads, it
Yeah.
reads
So,
negative.
perfectly
No,
well
one
the way
versus
it's
all
written.
will be.
Yeah.
Well, all will not go out. None will.
If it works, don't fix it.
Not that important, you can leave it the way it is.
Okay, we have, yeah.
I was gonna say, I didn't know why eligible should be in there, but tell me what the original is.
Oh, okay. The original was, no listener member
The whole thing
who
from
is
the beginning.
eligible.
Read the
From
whole
the
thing
beginning,
from the
she wants to know the
beginning.
whole thing.
No, that's what I want to know, that sentence.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm just saying.
All listener members, all listener member who is eligible. I mean, no listener member who is eligible to run for election shall participate in any on-air report as of the day nominations open.
Now, why is it eligible to run instead of running for? Because if they're not running,
No, it doesn't work that way.
The bylaws,
I think that's
the
the
bylaws
language of the
control
bylaws.
this.
It's not whether you're running or not, it's whether the fact that you're eligible.
Because you could decide at the last minute, I think the theory is, to run, then you would have had a leg up because you would have been talking on the air nonstop for 5 weeks.
But you'd
Because
be
you
ruled
weren't
that,
running, you know.
you'd be ruled that you couldn't run then, so it's
One
really
would- one
protected.
would-
yeah,
one
you would
hope.
have disqualified oneself.
No, one would hope, but
Yeah,
since
you could
it's not
hope.
clear,
Yeah, right.
you just avoid that situation.
Sure.
So,
So the only change then is consistent with at the very beginning.
you want to say consistent with the fair election campaign rules? Oh, that's good.
Or I would say to be consistent with.
No, consistent. It's a week.
What?
Instead of, so what you're
that's
saying,
fine.
instead of in consideration of, you're saying to be
Consistent with.
consistent with?
No,
Right.
just, no, well, Linda's saying to be consistent with, and Sean is, I mean, Sean is, and Carolyn is saying.
You're not considering it, you're making it consistent with.
Some people are saying to be consistent with, and some people are saying consistent. Just starting right off with that. Do we vote on that? Go on.
Okay, do we want to vote on that? How many want the word consistent with fair election campaign rules? Consistent with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. And how many oppose that? Okay, and what was the other one?
No, I'm forgetting it.
So you're withdrawing it? Okay. All right, consistent with,
That's consistent.
consistent with the fair election campaign rules, no listener member, or do we gonna change to all listener members?
No,
So, or-
no, no,
It's no?
No.
Everything else remains the same,
Okay,
so it's just consistent with.
okay.
We have to vote on that, right?
Okay, so yeah, can we, let's vote on the full paragraph. Acceptance of that paragraph.
Not a real.
Consistent with the fair election campaign rules, no listener member who is eligible to run for election shall participate in any on-air reports as of the day nominations open.
Did you pluralize reports there? Reports, is that a correction?
Okay.
Well, it says
No.
on any on-air
She
report.
said it wrong.
Report, okay.
Yeah,
Oh.
sorry,
No,
in
it's-
any on-air report,
Right.
okay?
So it's clear that when the day that nominations open, as of the day means that day you can't be on the air anymore.
Right, that's it.
Okay.
Okay, so can I have a show of hands to accept this paragraph into the full report? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 yes. Any opposed? Opposed? No opposed. Okay, so this is for the paragraph 1, consistent. Okay,
Point of information,
yes.
sorry, I missed something that makes this redundant, but regardless of whether a person was eligible to begin with, if the deadline for nominations is passed, they did not submit a petition, that they would no longer be eligible.
The way nominations work is that it's a period of time. This year, I think it's July 25th, nominations open. And then at the point that nominations close, then there would be no conflict
Period of
anymore. So
uncertainty.
it's a period of months in which people have to submit their campaign application. Then there's the whole election period where people get their announcements on the air, and then there are the election shows where all the candidates come up and talk. So at the point,
Well,
Well,
but
no, I'm not-
there's a deadline by which one has to submit a petition.
but that's not relevant. The
Well,
deadline is when the
I'm saying
nominations
that would make a
open.
person ineligible if they miss that deadline.
In which case, the language will no longer apply to them. In which case, that language no longer applies to them. They would be back in the rotation.
Yeah.
They could be on air then, yeah.
Yeah.
They would-
So there's a two-month, You don't need to change the language in order to cover that, because they're only eligible between 7:25 and 9:25.
But, oh, yeah, because 9:25 is the last day you can submit your petition, your application.
So if someone's on the board and they didn't submit for the remaining period that they're still on the board, then they could participate in the LSP programs. All right, so that one is, we're going to go with. And the next paragraph.
I have another correction.
Yes. We just voted on it,
No,
didn't we?
No, not the last paragraph.
not the last one.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the
Not the
first
last
one.
one.
Okay, I'm sorry.
The radio committee shall meet before each scheduled broadcast date to establish, not just to plan it, but to establish, I think, the program. Not just go plan and then somebody else can come up and change it. You're gonna establish it, say what it is.
Oh, so you mean like establish the plan of the program?
Yeah. Because otherwise you can plan and once it can go on forever. But once it's established and set.
Any thoughts? Any other comments?
Of what you would expect.
Yeah,
I hope you got those on camera.
No, the camera's going the other way.
Oh
What?
dear.
I wasn't
I
even.
feel like we're on Mount Everest and we're with a flag.
Pat has her hand up.
I'm sorry, Pat, yes.
I think establish is unclear. I think it's a little strange. What about determined? Because then
Determine's
once
good
it's
too.
determined, then it can't be changed after that. It's determined. That's like the same set.
That goes with the
Well, what I'm trying to get clarity on is what is it that you're talking about being determined or established?
what the program is going to be the next
content of the
day, the
program?
content of the program. You're not just gonna plan it, you're gonna set it, you're gonna determine it, you're gonna establish it. You understand? That's why I like determine.
What is the usual language?
I'll put them to look at
By a producer.
You plan the program.
Plan a program.
Yeah.
Everybody understands what that means.
Yeah. I mean, you can say
Content.
determine the content, but that's still planning the program.
To make it very explicit, you could say, plan the program and implement its plan.
And write a run sheet and.
I like determine. You can take it both.
But I guess the reason I was hesitating, because in some measure, the whole point of what we're writing is to sort of establish, isn't it? What the
So
general
you like the
plan-
word establish better?
No, I'm just trying to understand the need for that word.
Okay.
Yeah,
How about set?
Andrea has her hand.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel a little bit hesitant about it too because, actually it doesn't allow for necessary changes at the last minute. I mean, what if we plan a program and somebody
Gets sick.
No, somebody gets sick.
It
But
doesn't
something
come in.
happens on Wednesday that we should really talk about. You know, I mean, some emergency. What if they're trying to shut down the station or somebody, who knows, I don't know, but anything could happen. We could have another crew. Who knows? I mean, George Bush could issue an edict or the power could go out or something, I mean, something that, I can't think of emergencies right now, but what I mean is a sudden event which we might have to discuss, or want to discuss, or need to discuss, and we would change our program around.
Wasn't that covered in paragraph 5? Issues of
Yeah.
significance?
Yeah, but what I mean is instead of,
Jointly assume responsibility for any changes in the program.
Well,
Any necessary changes in the program. Any changes in the program necessitated by a last minute emergency? I mean, make it clear, it's not just if they feel like it.
Well, this doesn't specify that it says the radio committee shall meet before each scheduled broadcast date. So this doesn't preclude it happening from the day before, right? It doesn't preclude it happening from,
4 hours before.
yeah, I was just saying, you know, I think that, I guess I just feel that the committee's been working under consensus and not by decree or what. So I don't know that making the chair the person to decide, or any one person to decide.
No, that's why I said 2, the chair and the facilitator.
But technically, we don't have a chair.
Well,
We have someone facilitating our meetings, but we don't have a chair.
Facilitator of the meetings and the proposed moderator of that program together. I mean, I can see where there might not be time to convene the entire committee.
I guess we could vote on it. I don't particularly see a need to do that. I'm not really clear on the goals of doing that.
Well, I think Andrea outlined the goals pretty clearly. In case there's an emergency and decisions have to be made, who gets to make them?
Okay.
Rather than just leaving them up to the, the
Otherwise, you would have
rules.
volunteers rushing in to make the change without any authorization.
What I was
Proposed, your proposed language then.
Well, I mean, what I was really speaking about is, I mean, this did raise that question, but what I was really speaking about was the necessity to have, I mean, I was trying to have some flexibility rather than planning a program without ability to change it. You know, that once it was planned, it was cast, you know, in bronze, but rather that there might be some reason to change the plan was what I was really talking about. But then, of course, if there is an emergency, I suppose you could say if the committee cannot meet, or a sizable portion of the committee cannot meet, and they discuss how to address the problem, then as a fallback, you know, you could have some people recognized to help to do it. But I mean, I was really more talking about not getting ourselves locked in to a program plan if we needed to change it.
So how do you propose that language?
Well, I mean, I was really talking as opposed to establishment of judgment. The radio commission for broadcasting different program.
So how are you going to phrase this? The radio committee shall meet before each scheduled broadcast date to plan the program. In case of an emergency, the chair and facilitator shall decide how to proceed.
No, I would say in cases where the committee cannot or convene.
I guess the one of the reasons you're not going by stack at this point.
Well, there's no.
Okay. One of the reasons that I was hesitating is, you know, because as we're writing this, it's to sort of the goal is to, at least one of my personal goals is to do this in such a way that if it were working, if it were applied in, if this particular motion were going to be applied in 10 years and all of us could be gone,
Right.
you know, that it should be something that should function no matter who's here.
Right.
So that's kind of what I was hoping on a personal
I have it. The dates. In case of an emergency, this plan can be altered. Well, it depends who's there. What if there's only one person? I can't say, no one can say.
Right.
By group consensus. If there are two people, that's the group, I guess. But it has to be by the consensus of the participants.
Mike is next.
I would say something like this, that we will meet ahead of time, plan the broadcast, and to designate one or more persons to be responsible for implementing the plan, and these persons shall be given power for any emergency alterations to the plan in the event that there is no time to call a committee meeting over the plan. So when I say committee to designate one or two persons, I don't say which of those two persons they are. You know, whoever we feel before the broadcast would be the best suited to implement the plan and to be responsible for any changes occasioned by an emergency that the committee could not meet in time to deal with.
When the manager for each program.
Does this designated person remain the same, or a new person is chosen each time we meet to plan the respective show?
It's part of the sentence. It says before each broadcast. So I think it would be, the spirit of it would be, before each broadcast, they will designate, before each broadcast, they will develop a plan. Before each broadcast, they will, 1, develop a plan, 2, designate one or more persons to be responsible for implementing the plan, and 2, agree on the implementers having the authority to effect changes to meet emergencies that the committee cannot meet in time to deal with.
That doesn't really address my question, because the implementers, my question is, will the implementers who are chosen at each meeting be the same implementers, or can they,
No,
they
because
be
the
different
language
ones?
says before each meeting, before each broadcast. So that means we will do this for each broadcast separately.
Yeah, that's clear.
So in other words, it might be one person would be the implementer at one broadcast, and the next broadcast might be somebody else. Now, if we want to designate the same people over and over again, fine, but we're not locked into that, because the language states we do this as a separate act, before each separate broadcast.
Any other thoughts on it? I'm still not really, I'm not really understanding the necessity for it. I'm not that comfortable with designating one person necessarily. So I'm trying to
I
understand.
said one or more persons. I deliberately took that into account, one or more persons. I mean, what's the alternative? The alternative is
Chaos.
Something comes up, the plan cannot be implemented exactly the way we planned it. Somebody has to decide, is that going to be somebody that we have agreed upon, or is it going to be somebody who will assert authority or just volunteerism with no authorization from the committee?
All right.
And there's precedent, of course, for that.
All right. So can you write language?
Oh, me? Yeah.
Somebody.
Okay.
Somebody who.
I think Frank said it and said, the committee will meet ahead of time, plan the broadcast.
Here,
Does it,
take it from here, exactly as it is.
To plan the program, and then that's where you have your insertion.
I would say, if it will help people to parse it out, say, for each broadcast date, 1, to plan the program, 2, to designate one or more persons will be responsible for implementing the plan.
Okay.
3, those chosen to implement the plan will have authority to make changes made necessary by emergencies that the committee cannot meet in time to deal with.
Have authority to, have authority to, I missed the next word. What's the word after have authority to?
Why don't we say to authorize those persons?
Well, to alter the plan as needed to meet emergencies that the committee cannot meet soon enough to
To deal with unexpected emergencies.
That's redundant.
To alter the, to those persons to alter the plan.
Just the
An emergent
emergencies,
event is
though.
one which is unexpected.
Unexpected events.
All right, okay, I don't care. Make it an unexpected event, it doesn't be an emergency.
Yeah. I'll say it again. I'm sorry.
Emergent event.
I'm lost.
It's only in recent years that emergency gets connected with blood and gore. I mean, emergent means coming out of some place where you didn't expect anything.
Just emergencies then. I'm happy with that.
An emergent event.
An emergent event.
Yeah, it might not be an emergency. It
To
might
alter
be-
the plan as needed, I don't know.
As
I'm using
needed, I like
emergent
that.
event in an old-fashioned sense, meaning something unexpected.
Why don't we say, I need to help with the whole thing, but to begin it, number 3, to authorize those persons to alter the plan
As needed.
when the committee cannot, if the committee cannot convene.
Well,
That
no,
sounds,
no.
yeah, write that, that sounds.
Here.
Before you forget it, write that down and then we can,
Okay.
because that sounds coherent.
I know it doesn't. That's why, here, I'll speak more slowly.
Okay.
As needed to deal with unexpected events. That the committee cannot meet in time to deal
I
with.
took all that out. Just unexpected events, period.
I like my version.
Okay.
For once. All right, I'll read yours and I'll read yours. I'll remember yours. 1, to plan the program. 2, to designate one or more persons who will be responsible for implementing the plan. 3, to authorize those persons as needed to deal with unexpected events that the committee cannot meet in time to deal with.
What was
Now,
your
the
version?
reason why I say that is because, let's say the last meeting at which the thing is planned is like a week or 10 days before the broadcast, because for some reason the committee was working unusually efficiently. And there would be time to call the committee to deal with an emergent event or an unexpected event. So that's why I say this power should be exercised only when the committee has no other choice, when the committee cannot meet in time to deal with it. I don't want to leave that big loophole. You can say, I won't bother dealing with the committee because I can do it myself.
Keep it.
And then,
You might want to write something.
Linda's one was to authorize those persons to alter the plan in case of unexpected events. Is that how you said it?
As needed. To authorize them to change it as needed.
Authorize those persons to change the plan as needed. And I said, to authorize those persons to alter the plan as needed if the committee cannot convene.
your version?
That was one, to authorize, oh, Frank?
You had a, what was your, you had a version too, right?
Right, but I just, this is what I thought it was, to authorize those persons to alter the plan as needed if the committee cannot convene. And
All right, I like yours, you can strike one.
Yeah, that's a good, I mean,
That's
I
clear.
mean, your Andrea's statement is sort of straightforward.
Yeah, yours is fine.
now we have to have a vote on this whole thing.
Okay, so there's still something about it though that leaves me with a little bit of hesitation, in the sense that in the electronic age, there's no reason for someone to act in isolation, even if they've been designated. Whether it's an emergency, unless it's something that happens as you're walking into the studio, then you would have to think on your feet. But if there's an issue of something happening the day before or hours before,
Yeah.
I think that we should ensure that communication is delivered to the whole committee, so that so that there needs to be, I don't know how exactly how to say that.
Definition of,
But
as
You should
needed.
say, you know, when there's no time to consult with the committee, but I don't know, there's this controversial business about public meetings and, you know, online communications and substituting a meeting and requiring the same notices of the meetings and so on.
Well, you could make it very, you could say, I'm sorry, you could say, if the committee cannot convene or otherwise, what's the word?
Will be notified?
So,
I
consulted.
mean, consult with each other, you know, like, that allows for a conference call or something, or otherwise,
If there's no time for consultation with the
if
the committee.
or otherwise consult, if the committee cannot convene or otherwise consult with each other,
Right.
something like that.
Okay.
You know, it would be only in that case. Or do you feel that by stating this, it's gonna lead to that inevitable choice? And people will be sloppy about really trying to get together with the committee?
To me, that's where the problem lies, in the sense that I like the part about to designate one or more persons who will be responsible for implementing the plan.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important. But I think that person, I feel, has a responsibility to, you know, has to be held to the commitment of that plan, whatever it is.
Oh, I see.
Okay, but how about stating it more positively than I did? That these people will be charged with implementing the plan and should not make changes in the plan without consulting the rest of the committees.
There should be no question.
See, that's the opposite of what you were saying before.
Yeah, but it works
And see,
out
that's why,
as a practical thing.
but that's where I was
As a
hesitant.
practical thing, if they're unable to consult with the committee, then they have no choice but to act.
I don't know, I don't see why I don't get why there's a problem in consulting with people.
Oh, I guess the point is that there might come some eventuality that we cannot foresee or predict or logically construct right now, where we might not be able to consult the committee. Who knows what it is, and it's probably very small. And if it does happen, maybe it's a one-man show. Because no one could get together. There'd be no one here to listen and no one hears one person's, you know what I mean? There might be some eventuality.
Well, then I think that if that's the case, then I think that there should be something written into the motion that gives some kind of formula for the eventuality, rather than saying, okay, this person is going to be responsible for deciding what the eventuality would be. Am I making any sense?
No, not exactly.
Okay, so
Well, wait, are you saying that for a radio show to go on, there has to be a minimum of 2 or 3 people? It can't be one person, right? Or can it?
Well, probably
Well,
not.
if we left it to one person and they says, oh, well, I'm the only one available, let me do the show.
Is there gonna be a show? I mean, do you want that to be open or? I mean, it's not my show, I'm just asking what you want.
Well, I don't know, I guess. I guess it just seems to me that if maybe we should just spend a little bit of time discussing what we want a procedure to be in that eventuality, rather than say to put it into the hands of one individual to decide what the show will be.
Yeah.
I just think that it's not appropriate for one person to be left to make that decision.
Yeah.
Whether they're the facilitator, whether they're the chair, whether they're the designated person responsible for implementing the program, all of that is based on what was determined in the committee meeting. So, so that's just my hesitation. I don't see why we would want to put it into the hands of one person to determine. I just don't understand why we would do that. Do you?
Would you?
Yeah.
Well, they said one or more. The suggestion was one or more. You could say 3 or more.
But I believe that we should say that we can designate somebody to implement it. Okay, that's fine. But I feel that the implementation has to be based on the plan.
Right, yeah.
Right? So if and not just the plan, but backed by the plan, I suppose, will be this motion. So if a person, if we could say something, if there's going to be a person who's going to make an emergency decision, they can't do it in left field. It has to have some context for them to make a decision.
Right, because otherwise you could decide.
You could decide
there was a need
anything.
to do something and the committee couldn't meet.
So therefore I decided to play music for 2 hours.
Right.
There
In
has
other
to be a
words,
context.
yeah, right.
I feel that there needs to be a context for that.
Right, how do you decide that you need, in other words, there has to be some way you need
That's
to
why I
decide
said there
that
had
the
to be
committee
a
needs to
group
meet.
consensus.
No,
There had to be a group consensus, it can't be one person.
right, but
3 people going on the air, and if there's an emergency or something they want changed, all 3 of them should agree, or at least 2 out of 3.
Well, or, because like to me it seems that if the committee puts forth a plan and a designated person is going to implement that plan, which would include the various aspects of putting together a running sheet or contacting people or distributing the questions of the day, whatever it is that the person is doing in that plan. Then if there's a problem with that, then I think that problem has to come back to the committee, not the person alone should
Right.
decide it. I just don't see that that's viable in the long term.
I understand, so the question is, when is something an emergency? You know, when is something,
No, that's not the most important, because who's going to decide that is important, not for us to sit here and decide.
right, but what I was gonna say is, when is it an emergency? Because when do you decide that there's something that has to be done and the committee can't meet?
No, the
You know what I mean?
committee is
When do you say, when do you say the committee has to meet and it can't? Right? That's what you're really asking.
No.
When
No.
is there a need for the committee to meet to decide something? And it can't meet. Therefore, I have to decide.
How about the
I don't think that that's viable.
Yeah, I know, I understand.
How about the implementer, in the event of, in the case of unexpected events, which might require an alteration of the plan, the implementer should immediately
Yeah.
consult with the committee.
Right, that, to me, that seems to be more where the direction should go, is that you have someone implementing a plan, they have a roadblock, the idea is not to personally say, okay, I have a problem, I'm gonna do this. No, you say, I have a problem, back to the
We
committee.
should immediately consult with the committee. We won't take convene because it may not be possible, but we should immediately consult with the committee.
I think that's more appropriate.
So how did you say that? If those designated to implement
Should
the plan-
immediately consult with the committee on how to deal with the unexpected event.
If there is an unexpected, if confronted by an unexpected event, how does it start? How does it start?
In the case of an unexpected event,
Okay.
the implementers should immediately consult with the committee on how to deal with that unexpected event. And somewhere in there should say an unexpected event which might require alteration of the plan.
Do you have a comment for the committee?
And then to deal with that. In the case of an unexpected event, which might require alteration of the plan for the broadcast.
Okay. Could I make a suggestion on that? I don't think it has to be an unexpected event. It's, if the committee creates the plan or has the plan for the program, anything that goes contrary to that, it could be unexpected event, it could be, you know, there's other kinds of preemptions. I mean, there could be any kind of thing. I don't,
You mean not necessarily.
Well, these are unexpected events.
well, because in the implementation of a plan, things can or cannot happen. So
How about any proposed
it doesn't have to be a
changes?
big emergency. It could be anything.
That's why I'm saying unexpected. In other words, by unexpected, I mean something not anticipated when we designed the plan.
But how about any proposed changes? So it's not just external, but if anyone has an idea. But any proposed changes in the event of any proposed changes?
So say instead of an unexpected event, you could say maybe any events.
Because like what this paragraph is calling to me is a more defined structure on how the plan comes about and is implemented. So that's kind of what we seem to be reaching for. So it says here, the committee shall meet before each scheduled broadcast date to plan the program. Okay. So that's really pretty broad, right? So then we want to designate someone to be responsible for implementing that plan. So it seems to me that we need to have a statement saying that if the plan itself, for whatever reason, can't be implemented, then we would need to get back, that information needs to come back to the committee and not, see, I don't think that the person should then decide what the answer would be, what the resolution of whatever that might be. So, because that's where it does leave room for misunderstanding. We could just make it very clear, this is the plan, you're going to implement the plan, there's any kind of obstacle whatsoever in implementing the plan, and that information comes back to the committee. And then the plan can be either altered or, adjusted. But I feel that it has to be done by the committee, not by the person.
Carolyn had her hand.
Yeah, I think the plan, the language anticipates a negative event that interferes with, but suppose, let's say, something happens or that reasonably possible but would be an improvement that the committee decided but wasn't available at the last minute, a person or a thing or whatever happens. In other words, perhaps the language could adapt to any proposed change.
Yeah.
Rather than make it a negative thing, it could be a
Yeah.
positive thing too. Somebody might have a brainstorm or somebody who was not available show up. So any
Yeah.
proposed change should be,
Would be brought back
would that cover
to
the
the
negative and
consensus
the
of the
positive?
committee.
Yeah.
What's the point of having a plan if someone can go home, change their mind, decide they want to do something else and bring it back? I think you set a plan and that's the plan. If something unexpected, whatever that unexpected thing happens, something that's not already provided for in the motion, there are things that are already provided for in the motion. If you have Davis, Kilgore, who's next? Lederer, I guess, right, alphabetical. If Kathy cannot do it, and she discovers this 3 days before the show, or 3 hours before the show, and can get in touch with the next person to cover, that is not something that needs consultation with the committee. There's already a process that is part of the motion to deal with that. The only language you need is an unexpected event. Now, who should be authorized to do it? I have very different views on that, and I'm not even sure I'm going to invest the time dealing with that. But clearly, something that says any proposed change is just way too open. You ask a committee to come in, make a plan, someone goes home, comes up with a new idea, and the committee is bound to meet again to rehash the whole thing. Obviously, that language is way too loose.
Yeah, that's a good point. The point that I was making was not that if somebody comes up with a new idea, is if there's some obstacle in the fulfillment of the plan.
That's not already covered in the motion. There's a difference between notification and consultation. If we already have a rotation for hosting, and that's part of the motion, if at the time that we planned the meeting, the assumption was that Sean was going to be the facilitator, for whatever reason Sean can't do it, I'm next in the alphabetical rotation. I'm not scheduled to appear as a guest, so that's not creating a conflict. If Sean gets in touch with me, one way or the other, confirms that I can do it, then either he or I are responsible for notifying the list that there's a change in facilitator because of change of personal circumstances. That's not something that the committee needs to come back to the room and discuss. There's already a way to handle that.
Frank is next.
Yes, precisely. If that is part of the plan, then they will be able to implement the plan. It's only if there's some part of the plan that they cannot implement.
Hence, the only thing we need is something that is unexpected, something that is not already covered, something that is not already provided for in the existing motion.
Yeah, I agree with that.
If it's provided for in the plan, then of course they don't have to consult with them.
Hence notification as opposed to convening a meeting or consultation.
Excuse me, Cerene,
It's
let me
fine.
explain it.
Wait,
If-
I mean, we were
If
getting.
it's in the plan as to what we should do if this person is not available, then we go to the next one and so on, there's no problem in implementing that plan because we've anticipated it. What we need to do, however, is to have some kind of plan as to what to do when there's something not anticipated in the plan, which could be called an emergent event, an unexpected event, an unforeseen event, or an event not anticipated in the plan.
Well, that suggests, but the reason that I'm hesitating with all of this is that the committee meets and has a plan. It designates certain people to take care of certain tasks in the implementing of that plan. Okay, so if that designation and that task is very clear, then changing that is something that should come back to the committee.
If they cannot implement the plan as spelled out in advance, if they run into any kind of an obstacle in doing that, then they should immediately consult with the committee.
It's beginning to sound like, or to look like a mishmash now.
Yeah, I'm, you know,
You're just trying to get all these notes
yeah,
in.
yeah, these ideas.
Yeah.
Let's see,
Is there an anticipated end for tonight's, speaking of unexpected events, an end for tonight's meeting?
The completion of this motion is the anticipated.
Or midnight, whichever comes sooner, or no limit in sight?
We could work till tomorrow.
Albert had his hand up there.
I think the motion should also say that whatever changes are made should be as close as possible to, you know, the provisions already in place, or minimally departing from them. I don't know, whichever negatively or positively stated.
I don't think I got that. Say it again.
It should be it should depart from the structure already, provisions already there, as little as possible. Yeah. Rather than being a
the
completely
established plan.
Yeah, the established plan, very good. Rather than being a completely new idea, just, you know, rather than being a completely new structure.
Frank had his hand up.
That's for the committee to decide when the implementer is consulted.
oh,
When the implementers consult the committee and say, we're gonna have to change the plan, consult the committee on this, the committee can change it as little or as much as they want to. I wouldn't presume to tell them exactly what the committee can do and cannot do as far as advance.
No, I'm assuming there isn't time to consult the committee. I'm talking about just the volition of the, whatever you call them,
I mean, presumably, if they've all agreed on this plan, they will not want to change it unnecessarily.
well, we're talking about an implementer who is there because the committee cannot be consulted. I'm just saying that the implementer is empowered, is not empowered to, you know, the implementer should try to change it as little as possible on their own. I'm talking about the implementer.
The implementer is consulting the committee. The committee at that moment in time, will tell them how far to go in changing it.
All right, we assume, I'm just talking about to the degree that the implementer cannot consult the committee. If the, you know, if the emergency is 10 minutes before the program, or during the program. That's what the implementer is for, isn't it? The committee cannot be consulted, or am I wrong about that?
No. Well, during the program, it would be the facilitator, I guess. Once the program is in process,
Oh,
there's the only one who can affect it are the people who are present in the room.
okay.
So what I was responding to is that the plan may not, you know, something might be done in stages. So a program might be like the one that just took place, really, in which we were attempting to be fair about the fair election campaign rules. So there was a real inconsistency, I would say, in understanding of what the plan was in that particular case. So that being, so that's why I'm saying that the idea is not to presume and move forward, but just to bring that information to the committee so that there's a check and balance systems for lack of clarity, if that's those things that could be going on. So, in the sense that there's an obstacle, that the first impulse would be to bring that obstacle back to the committee.
Clarification, why is it back to the committee? Is the committee those persons who will be on the program?
No.
No.
No,
This is
the
the-
committee.
We are the
This is
committee.
just the body that sort of produces and plans.
We're talking about last
Structure.
minute changes in the plan that is established, right? Or not?
Yeah, I thought so.
It's not gonna come back to committee if it happens that day.
Well, that's the
We
question.
should make a good faith effort.
Phone calls, emails, I mean, that.
Well, see, I don't see this as a problem of just that. I see this as a problem or as a focus of the implementation of the program. So if we're having a meeting, we have a plan, this is the plan. A, B, and C person are going to take care of A, B, and C of the process. Whatever that function is, it's not followed, something else is followed. So that may just be the person naturally, saying, oh, this isn't working, let me go to the next step, let me go to the next step, and then we go to the next step. There's no reason why that decision process should be made in isolation of the whole committee, and in isolation of the plan.
Okay, so I thought that the body of this motion, particularly that thing that we did not finish, or we did finish, I don't know, was to the purpose of establishing the parameters of what would happen per program, right?
Okay, can I give you an example of what? So we just created something here that says the time allotted would be
Right.
and the 2 hours would be updates on the work of the LSB. Okay, so or of committees, update on committees. So it may be that there's something that that needs to change in what was decided. So for instance, the plan might have been, okay, this show we're going to do an update on the LSB. And for whatever reason, there may need to be an update on a committee or so there's a lot of potential for change.
Right, there's something called discretionary power here that we
Yeah.
don't, there seems to be a reluctance to give it, but yet you have to in a way, because I've been in that room and holy hell can break loose. You don't know what's going to happen all the time when you're doing a show. So that, even in the room itself, deviations can happen. I don't know the answer to this, but that's why it's so difficult to do it, because you're trying to set things up with parameters, but there has to be some wiggle room. Understand what I'm saying? Because that's reality. Whether the wiggle room happens before the show because so-and-so decided at the last minute the train isn't going to get there on time, that already is a wiggle room decision, right?
Well, that's in the context of a broadcast, so if someone is facilitating a broadcast and you have 3 members there and they make their reports and you start taking questions from calls and all of a sudden the 4th member comes in, you would have to have the discretion to say, okay, now you have your 7 minutes to make your report.
But there's
That's not
also
what we're
discretion
talking
on
about.
content. Because, and that's what we're talking to more specifically, I think, is what if something does happen, that was not covered in the plan the day before, whenever that plan was established, right? That's again a wiggle room thing, right? And what you're trying to say was the process. I don't see a big process. I see consensus of people I'm gonna assume, go talk to each other and say, hey, listen, let's cover this because it's essential to be covered today. Not because I want to be Miss Star. You know, that's not the reason. The reason has to be that for the, facilitating the purpose of the LSB program.
I think Frank.
Just as a pragmatic, common sense
Yeah.
perspective, if they have time to consult with the committee, they should. If they're already in the studio, obviously they don't have time to consult with the committee, so that's a non-issue.
Right. Well, how much before? An hour before? A half hour? I mean, if the committee has to be meeting. I mean, at some point, the committee has to say, okay, do the show. It's your power to create it now, because, Now, if you're saying you want changes have to be consistent with what is in the motion, these items picked up, fine. That's why you specified it all. It has to be either LSB, network, or whatever. You specify that for a particular reason.
Well, let me elaborate. If we charge them with the responsibility of consulting with the committee, and they fail to do so, they might very well offer, in their defense, it was midnight the night before, and I couldn't reach the committee in the time remaining, okay? And then we will say, okay, some of these things happen. But on the other hand, if it's like a day before, and they had time to consult and they did not, then we might censor that behavior.
Censure.
Well, I guess my sense is that I think that we want to just establish guidelines that anybody can use, and it's not attached to personality, but that are clear guidelines.
Right.
That's really what I'm reaching for. Clear guidelines so that, it's just, this is it, this is the thing.
Well, I'm saying if we charge them with responsibility to consult with the committee immediately, or if you want to put it in a timely fashion, that should cover it. I mean, in other words, if there's a scenario in which the emergent event or the unexpected event comes within just a few hours of the broadcast, cross that bridge when we get to it. But I think the basic principle is that they should make a good faith effort to consult with the committee, should be conveyed in this stipulation.
So can we try to write language for it? So that we can read one way or the other?
Well, start at the beginning. Providing information towards scheduled broadcast date to plan program.
1, to plan the program. 2, to designate one or more persons who will be responsible to implement the plan. Well, I don't know, 3 seem like
And
it
if
was...
changes are requisite, that that person be responsible for submitting justification.
How about for 3?
Could we,
there was that something, if the plan itself, for whatever reason, cannot be implemented, it has to come back to the committee, was one way, what you said. Then Frank added, only if there's something, no. Maybe something, only if there's something that's, only if you cannot implement the plan. If that is something, whatever reason cannot be implemented, that was it. We both said that.
That it would be.
They were gonna have to come back to the committee. The committee had to be reached, had to be convened or consulted.
What about from number 3 simply saying, charge the implementers with the responsibility of consulting with the committee immediately if they encounter a problem not anticipated in the plan.
The person implementing. Seems like we have a whole lot of ideas there, and then some of them conflict with each other. So maybe it is that we need to just finish this paragraph. Maybe we need to add another paragraph about the implementation of the plan for clarity. So can we just say, can we leave this as it is? The radio committee shall meet before each scheduled broadcast to plan the program and to designate one or more persons who will be responsible for implementing the plan, and end it there. And then create another sentence about what those responsibilities are of implementing the plan. Your responsibilities are to, one, follow the plan, or two, bring any changes back to the committee, or any necessary alterations should be brought back to the committee, not necessarily just move on to step 2, 3, and 4.
Right.
The implementer, if for whatever reason can't implement this plan, then they should bring that problem back to the designated committee.
But for whatever reason,
They should bring that.
the plan cannot be implemented.
Then the committee should the committee should be informed of that.
The committee should be.
Informed or consulted?
Informed and consulted.
Consulted.
Informed and consulted.
Consulted and consulted if possible.
About the remedy to the problem.
To determine.
Okay.
To determine the problem.
And I would say that should follow up until the point that, the attempt has to be made if it's not possible. If the emails go out, if the calls go out, and nobody can respond, then I would see that the person would have to be able to go forward. So if it's 2 weeks ahead of time that the problem occurs, there's time to communicate, there's time to create a meeting. If it's 1 week, time to communicate, time to create a meeting. If it's 3 days, at least time to communicate. If it's hours before, you can put out an email, but if there's no time for consultation, it's at that point I think that the designated person will have to move forward.
what, if you said something like this, if response is not possible.
Well, I feel
Then-
that the designated person has a responsibility to communicate the obstacle to the committee for consultation, to inform and to elicit consultation on how to move forward.
Okay.
If there's no response, if the committee members don't see their emails, if they don't take the time to get back, if there's not time to create some kind of conference, either call, ultimately the person has to take responsibility. But I just feel that the first responsibility should be to be inclusive of the committee, take the consult of the committee. And if that doesn't happen, ultimately the person will have to make the decision. So I just feel that the responsibility has to be there to inform, not to just move forward. So that's how I'm understanding this problem. Bob, what's that here?
Well, I think what you said makes sense, but in that case, I think it's important to have more than one person be the implementer, so that if you're in that crunch where, you know, there's not time, it's not just one person deciding, it's two people.
It has to be at least two people. Okay, I think that's fair.
Which also is good, because if
Yeah.
the implementer gets sick and they can't make the phone calls to invite the people in the air, whatever
Yeah.
task they're supposed to do, there's an automatic backup and you have to scurry around like, well, who's gonna
Or you
fill
could
it?
even divide the task.
Or you could split it, yeah.
Yeah, I like
So maybe
that.
the phrase would be, I don't have it in front of me, but at least two people to implement.
Okay.
So instead of one or more, just
Two or
say two
more.
or more.
Yeah,
And
two or more.
two or more, okay.
One person designates one more persons.
Yeah, so that means that ultimately you're right, then the final, if there has to be a crunch, there's at least
At least
two,
those two have to
at
agree
least two
with each
people
other.
there that can, I like that.
What's the matter?
At least two or more persons. Of all these pieces. Can what, something you said was, if response is not possible. That would
Well,
be-
I'm
that would
saying-
mean, in other words, that whatever their names are supposed to inform and seek consultation. And if response is not possible, or not forthcoming,
Then the facilitators have to take that responsibility, but the first responsibility is to inform and consult. And if the committee doesn't have time to come together, and I like the idea of there'd be at least two people to make that decision in an emergency.
the two or more.
Would anyone else like some Frito-Lay? Junk food? Anyone?
Do you want to take a vote on it?
Can we hear it?
Let's try to, look, Andrew, try to construct it. With,
The radio committee shall meet. The radio committee shall meet for each scheduled broadcast date to plan the program, and there was something else.
and then to designate two or more
Oh.
persons who will be responsible
And-
to implement the plan.
And to, all right, and, 8, and to designate two or more persons
Who will be responsible to implement the plan.
Persons responsible for implementation.
I'm sorry?
Persons responsible for implementation. I mean, we don't have to keep using.
Persons responsible.
for implementation.
For.
Implementing the plan.
Then, no, those persons will, oh, no, wait a minute.
Then end that. And then what I was saying is that under the responsibilities for implementing the plan are I'm just,
Oh, yeah, I had it, where was it? Sorry.
so this is, that means if there's any kind of emergency or something comes up, the first responsibility is to inform and consult with the committee
Right.
on any potential changes.
What is it, constantly informed.
Oh, yeah, their responsibilities are to, one, implement the plan. If for whatever reason the plan cannot.
Language is redundant.
I know, that's what I was thinking. I know.
Goes
But
straight to
but I'm-
in the event of unexpected.
Wait,
There are
but.
unexpected events, and then go from there.
Right, but it was before the event. It is redundant, but in other words, it was even before there was a problem. Their job is to carry out the plan. Maybe we don't even have to say
Just
that.
say you're designating two people to implement, so it's repeating yourself.
Right, that's right, okay.
Necessary.
Yeah, no, that's right. So then you say, if for whatever reason the plan cannot be implemented, the committee should be informed and consulted to determine a remedy for the
And
problem.
I would like to stick in there promptly. We should promptly inform that consultant
Right, we don't have to say.
on how to deal with the,
You know what, let's leave out the responsibilities are, because it's true, it leads to a redundant statement, like Bob said. If for whatever reason the plan cannot be, if for whatever reason the plan cannot be implemented, the committee should be promptly informed and consulted to determine a remedy for the problem.
Okay.
This is what you said. Cannot be.
I would say on how to deal with the problem, it's a slight difference, because it may be the committee will not be able to prescribe a precise remedy. They may decide the best way to deal with it is to let the implementers on the ground, deal with it on the run. So it's a very, very slight difference, but instead of saying remedying the problem, to deal with the problem.
Remedy
Promptly informed and
or
consulted to deal with the
Or
problem.
to deal with. Determine the remedy for the problem or to deal, find a solution.
We'll have to resolve it, whether they can find a solution, but they'll have to make a choice.
Okay. If no, is it reasonable to say?
In
to
the
state it this
event,
way?
in the
In the
event
event.
that.
How about in the absence of a response from the committee?
In the event
It's
that,
not
in the
forthcoming.
event that,
The response of the committee is not forthcoming.
Response from the committee. You want to say is not possible, is not
Is not
forthcoming or possible, or?
It's the same
Very
thing.
simple language would be, in the absence of a response from the committee, the implementers shall be empowered to make what changes are necessary.
that sounds good. In the absence of a response.
I can just see that for some reason that means to me a problem. But we did try to reach you, we did respond. No, you didn't, I didn't, I could just see, you know.
Okay.
We called you 3 times, you never answered our visit. I could just see.
But that, even though that can happen, the important is that the attempt is made, and a legitimate attempt is made. I mean, if I'm facilitating something and I encounter an obstacle, I can immediately inform people and elicit response from as many committee members as I get. So an honest attempt is made. If nobody gets the email, if nobody responds, then ultimately the people you have facilitating have to move on. So the thing is, the process is obstacle, bring it back to the committee responds, and you move forward. Or the outcome might be committee, there's no time for the committee to respond, and you still move forward. But
Okay.
the step of reaching back out into the committee should not be eliminated. It's an important step.
So we say, in the absence of a response from the committee?
Because that covers all the possibilities, like there wasn't time, or there wasn't sufficient interest on the part of the committee, or you know, it covers all eventualities.
Okay.
And I would say members of the committee, not the committee. In the
Yeah.
absence of response from members of the committee. Because the committee,
Right.
you know, you could say, well, I only got 3, that's not the committee.
Right, that's right. In the absence of a response from members of the committee, those so designated will seek a
I
solution.
should say the implementers.
The implementers.
The implementers.
You
That
act-
sounds like
the
a-
new
sounds
action
like a
hero, you know,
Clint
like
Eastwood
the
movie.
Terminators and the Transformers.
Bob, I
and
think-
the implementers.
I was on the stack a long
Albert
time.
had his hand up a
I was on
long
the
time
stack a
ago.
long time ago. A small point. I just wanted to ask when it says the committee shall meet before each scheduled broadcast. Does that imply the committee shall not meet at other times? The whole question of when the committee shall meet or shall not meet, how many times, what if the programs are twice a month, and so forth. Should there be a minimum number of times the committee meets, at least once a month? Anyway, I just wanted to put that. The two things that I'm really saying. How often does a meeting meet? And does the statement before each scheduled broadcast imply that the committee does not meet at other times?
Bob?
I want to go back to this language about consultants, because you have a committee of whatever, 8, 10 people. If you send out an email, such and such changed, the 2 of us think we should do X, and 2 people write back and say, no, X is a bad idea, do Y. Well, you shouldn't have to be bound by 2 people on a 10-person committee. So ultimately, there has to be some discretion to the implementers. They have to be empowered to say, well, that doesn't make sense, and that's only 2 people saying it, so we're going to do the thing. As long as there's 2 people, and so then presumably there'll have to be some consensus between them. So I would modify that language.
You would, instead of in the absence of response from the committee, those, from members of the committee, those so designated, or the, whatever we call them, will seek a solution, you're saying?
Well, it could be 2, too. Like 2 people could be saying, no, don't do that. And then the 2 people who are doing it say, well, wait a minute, we decided that this is, so there has to be some ratio that tips the balance. Is that what you're saying?
Well, not exactly that it needs to be a rigid number, but just, I think it has to come down to some discretion. Because otherwise, it's an undemocratic process. It's who had time to get to their email,
Right, yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and I think it should be that they should take into account
Do
the
they work
feedback
that
they get,
day?
but
Right,
they
but
can't be rigidly bound to,
Right.
well, 2 people said do this, so we must do this.
I know, but I think the other, if I may, the other part to consider is how much time there is when this obstacle occurs.
So maybe that needs to be specified.
Yeah, because it could happen 2 weeks ahead, a
Right.
week ahead.
That's
You know,
a
it could be
different
days
situation.
ahead. So there, the opportunity for consultation is there. But as you get closer to it, the opportunity for that is going to be whittled down.
Well, why don't we decide what that borderline is?
Okay, sounds good.
And then there won't be misunderstanding and accusation later when someone says, well, you had plenty of time. Well, I don't consider, 4 days to be enough time. All right, well, what is it? Is it 4 days? Is it 7 days? What is the point at which you can call a meeting?
Well, Frank was up.
How about in the absence of a decisive response from members of the committee?
It's too subjective.
Then what? Then they take charge, you're saying?
Hmm?
Then they make the
Yeah.
decision as well?
In other words, instead of saying in absence of a response, say in absence of a decisive response. 2 or 3 people responding is not a very decisive response from the whole committee.
Yes. I like the idea of a deadline, but I think it's just as much of a minefield as the word decisive.
Uh-huh.
Somebody will always be arguing about it. At some point, I think we have to accept the authority that we're giving people and complain about it afterwards if they don't like it. We'll fire them later.
Yeah, no, it's right. No.
Fire them later.
It just
Yeah.
seems
All right.
a little.
So do you want to, how about, any obstacle, I'm just throwing this out there, that any obstacle that occurs, or any roadblock that occurs, from my perspective, I would say it would need at least, I don't know, 48 hours. You know, within the 48 hours prior to a show, we would have to leave it to the discretion of the administrators, is what I think.
Oh, I see what you mean.
I mean, if it's that tight an emergency within 48 hours, then you have to leave it to the discretion of the, that's my suggestion.
So
What
in
about
the
before
event
48
that
Before 48 hours, then there's an opportunity to communicate and call a meeting. Well, everyone, we
Call
should,
a meeting,
the implementation should, well, yeah.
I'm sorry, what's the question?
Well, you were questioning about calling a meeting within
Well, yeah,
less
it's
than
3
40
days before airtime, and now you're gonna call a meeting for, have to be tomorrow or the next day.
Mhm.
That's.
Well, the meeting may not be able to occur, in which case it would
So
still
let's
go.
set a time that is realistic. That's why I was saying, you know, is 7 days or, you know, whatever, but.
Well, I see the 48 hours as
Telephone conference, and
realistic.
that makes it more
Yeah,
feasible.
It might be possible for people.
Andrew and Carol going.
I mean, why don't you, you know, for any roadblock that occurs within 48 hours of the program, the discretion is left to the implementers if people cannot convene. You can still try to convene even in 48 hours. Presumably, I mean, conceivably, that might be possible. So you try it, and if it's not possible, then within 48 hours, it's left to the implementers. You know, you could still try. Or are you saying it's not worth trying? Any roadblock that occurs within 48 hours of the program, if convening the committee is impossible, or consultation, or telephone consultation is impossible, then it's left to the discretion of the those chosen to implement the program. But they can still try.
Carol?
Are you know?
Are you done or?
I mean, I guess I want to know if that's absurd.
Yeah, I think it's dangerous to set a definite time because then what if somebody waits until 47 hours to create a crisis?
to implement.
Because there is a deadline there. I would rather just say, you know, every possible effort, and then if we want to accuse people later on of not having made every possible effort, we'll just have to do that. But
Yeah, that makes
between
sense.
teleconferences and cell phones and you know, internet, I think it's foolish to try and pin it down to a specific time.
Yeah, I agree. I think it should be something like, in the event that a committee remedy cannot be sought, the program participators must implement or can implement changes based on the consensus of their group. I don't want just one person to decide. Who's ever part of that program, I think it should be their consensus.
I mean, whoever's
Who's going on the air.
implementators,
Yeah.
all who's going on.
I don't know how you feel about that.
That's a whole other kettle of fish.
I don't know if that's.
Not one person is going to decide, well, the committee didn't meet, I couldn't get them or whatever, therefore
No.
this is how we're doing it.
No, it's the facilitator. Well, see, we're talking about, the two designated people are members of the committee. Right? So we're not talking about the people, the LSP people who are on the air. They're not going to come in at the last minute and decide to do something else. That's not the.
So we're talking about the facilitator and who else?
Members of the committee.
And a member of the committee?
Members, whoever's planning it, or whatever designated people among the members of the committee.
Who's going to be on the program with empowered to change it because something happened?
The two designated implementers. Two or more designated implementers are the only ones in the absence of being able to meet as a whole committee would be making any change. That's my understanding.
That a committee remedy is
I
not.
think what I see or what I feel or what I'm hearing
Yeah.
is an insecurity in terms of good faith.
Right,
That's really what the problem is
Yes.
here.
Yes.
There's a feeling that there's not going to be good faith. So I think that, Bob, for me, is the hesitation of saying, well, we want to set this transition a week out or 2 weeks out because the committee can't meet, because there's a lack of faith in each other, that whatever the plan that's set in motion is going to be respected and followed. And whatever guidelines we put in here are going to be used as a way of skirting the plan and re-implementing a new plan. And that is the problem we're having with this,
and we want to make it airtight and we can't.
So we're sitting here talking about, we could do this, we could do that, we can do this, we can do that, because there's a, so maybe we should just put something in here that, you know, that facilitators to act in, you know, that they're being required to act in good faith with the plan. And if they're not acting in good faith with the plan, then that's something that has to be dealt with at some point, so that we don't have to micromanage all these little by hour, by minute. You know, just say that we have to, that part of the responsibility is for these facilitators to act in good faith to the plan being committed. So that if it's not in good faith, that's another problem. And that we don't have to create a million zillion possibilities to try to box people in.
Right.
I don't know if that's making any sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense. It's true. Or the facilitators, designators are required to act according to the spirit, if not the letter of the plan, at the last minute.
Well, yeah, in some sense, that's the response. That's really the charge.
Yeah.
And there's no way that we can force that upon someone. But we need to have in our motion that that's what's being expected of these facilitators, and if that's being abused, then maybe that person wouldn't be chosen to facilitate again.
Well, just-
Or to implement.
Okay, yeah, because there's different.
Implement.
All right.
Okay, yeah, that's right, correct my language. I have no brain.
Well, no, you have a brain, but you make mistakes.
Yeah.
So you're referring to the implementers, not the
Yeah, the
facilitators.
implementers have to, part of their responsibility is to act in good faith with the plan.
Right, yeah.
So that is clearly a different problem than all this 12 hours, 24 hours, 1 week.
Consistent with the plan.
Yeah, that's their responsibility to act in good faith with the plan.
Frank.
This relates to two words I wanted inserted there. One was the promptly, and the other one was deal with rather than find a remedy. And my understanding would be if this is sufficient language so that when the implementers promptly inform the committee may decide, hey, we don't have time to get together enough to deal with it. You got the ball, go with it.
I think
On the other hand, the committee may decide, hey, we really need to call an emergency meeting. But that's something that the committee can decide at the moment if we leave the language flexible enough to do that. And the flexibility is, I think, is promptly inform the consult, and 2,
Deal with,
to find a way to deal with the problem. Promptly inform and consult on how to deal with the problem. And the answer they may get back from the committee might be, hey, let's have an emergency meeting, or it might be, you got the ball, take it and go with it.
Well, I think
Right.
that has to be presumed. In the absence of the members of the committee convening a special, an emergency meeting, in the absence of that happening, it's got to be by default left to the people who are the implementers.
Well, if they promptly inform the committee, unless it's like the night before, the committee will have time at least have an opportunity to decide whether or not it's urgent enough that they do try to have some formal
Yeah,
meeting.
but all I'm saying is that I don't think that the implementers can wait for the committee to decide to say, okay, go with it. By default, if the committee does nothing, they have to go with it.
Yeah,
Right.
that's why I say absent a decisive response from the committee.
So do we have some language here? We've been
Yeah,
espousing a number
I
of
have-
ideas.
I
here.
know,
Let's-
some,
Let's cobble together something.
yeah.
So in the event that the plan cannot be implemented,
Well, I think what we were talking about is to establish that,
let's see, it was the radio commission for each scheduled broadcast date to plan the program and to designate 2 or more persons who will be responsible for implementation. If for whatever reason the plan cannot be implemented, the committee should be promptly informed and consulted about how to
On
deal
how to deal with it.
on how to deal with the problem. The facilitators are the implementers are charged with the facilitator's responsibility is
we're
to act in
talking
good
about
faith.
we're talking implement.
I'm sorry, the implementator's responsibility is to act in good faith with the plan in their charge or something. According to the plan,
I don't think we need to
acting-
put that in, if you read that between the lines.
No, I think we should say that.
I mean, their primary responsibility is to protect the plan in good faith or something, or to implement the plan in good faith.
Yeah.
You know, it's put that in. That's never gonna be definitive, but at least the idea of it is
Yes.
expressed
Yes.
there.
At least induce some guilt if we can't get anything.
What?
At least induce some guilt if we don't get anything else going.
I think
Yeah,
we
I
could
think,
do with
I
less.
think that's just rhetoric and an exhortation, which is not going to do anything.
Implemented. Nothing does anything about this really, right? I mean, what I mean is we are up against the fact that you cannot guarantee anything, you know. And any unexpected eventuality, you cannot guarantee how the solution will be carried out. And that it will be a happy one, or you know, you can't guarantee it, you cannot regulate any of these things. You keep coming up against it.
That's why I felt it was important to put in the piece about good faith. Because I think the reason I brought that up is because everyone is trying to constrict the process, assuming that, you know, with a lack of trust, that we can trust each other to act in faith of the plan. You know, we make a plan, okay, you're gonna go take care of it, and when you get out there, the expectation has to be that you're gonna follow the plan first. And then if there's a problem, bring it back promptly. And then in the absence of a response, you have the authorization to proceed. You know, so the idea is that the person who's implementing is not out there on their own implementing a plan foreign to what the committee has designated. I think that's kind of the goal.
Yeah, I understand that as a goal. I just don't understand the value of telling them they should be acting in good faith. I think that should be understood. I would really put it in more concrete terms. They should promptly inform and consult the committee.
Well, that's part of it.
Yeah.
That's part of it also.
And in the absence of a decisive response from the committee, they will have to deal with it on their own as best they can.
Right.
I'm thinking good faith there, I know.
I would say the implementer's primary responsibility is to act in good faith in accordance with the plan.
Okay. I thought that sounds.
Consistent with it.
Who said that?
I said in accordance. Oh, it's consistent.
6.5 doesn't All right, so we're getting something here. Let's picking up from, if for whatever reason the plan can't be implemented, the committee shall be promptly informed and consulted on how to deal with the problem. The implementer's primary responsibility is to, in accordance or
To act in good faith.
act in good faith with.
In accordance with the plan.
Okay.
To implement a plan in good faith.
Is that saying anything?
Shouldn't those sentences be reversed? Shouldn't the good faith come before in the absence of?
Yeah, that does come first.
Wait, I forget where in the absence of it. I don't have that anymore. Oh, in the absence of a response from the committee?
A decisive response from members of the committee.
In the absence of a decisive response. I'm sorry, what? I'm missing. From members of the committee, then what? The implementer's primary responsibility, are you saying that's, I made that a sentence on its own, I thought that was still alone.
Oh, okay.
Are you saying that follows that clause? In the absence of a decisive response from the members of the committee, the implementer's primary responsibility
The
is that
authority
either
to
way.
run it to.
Even if they're implementing it in conjunction with the committee, that's their.
Well, in the absence of a full committee, the two facilitators will ultimately.
Oh, right,
We'll seek
Implementers, we'll seek a
yes.
solution.
The two implementers will consult with each other to seek a solution.
Okay. In the absence of a decisive response from members of the committee, the two
I wouldn't say two, just, I think the implementers plural,
implementers.
because it's two or more, we don't.
Right, you're right.
The implementers plural.
The implementers will
Consult with each other
consult with each other.
to seek a solution.
Making a good faith effort to fulfill the spirit of the plan.
And that's where you think good faith should
The
be.
spirit of what?
I like this primary responsibility, is to act in good faith. Kind of like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I like that phrase. Primary
It's
responsibility.
kind of like, it's like the Pacifica mission, right? You know, it's the same.
I like that phrase.
So this doesn't have any real dates in it, it just says simply, the implementers will act in good faith to the plan. If there's a problem, they promptly consult back with the committee. If the committee is unable to respond, then they act collectively, the implementers, to proceed with the show.
We deal with.
That's actually, that's it, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
No, I think that's really a good one. This
All right.
should have been, can we, do you have this recorded?
Yeah.
This should be
Do we have
recorded
what recorded?
on Monday night. Can we change the plan?
On the program.
So can we just try to complete the language so we can vote on this particular
Do you want to vote on this?
On the final language, I think we should. Yes.
And what we just did?
Well, because I'm not clear what we're gonna type and actually put
Oh.
it, because this just seems, we said so many things.
Right.
It's true. All right, I'm gonna write it all in one place.
Yeah.
Now, don't we have to go back to the other paragraph that we skipped?
Yeah, we will.
Right.
The radio committee shall meet before each scheduled broadcast date to plan the program and to designate 2 or more persons who will be responsible for implementing the plan.
For implementation.
For implementation, okay, thank you. Responsible.
To plan.
Okay, that's okay, but we need for you to get it correct, so let's just take the time it takes for you to do that.
Persons
Who will be responsible?
for implementation.
Okay, then, if for whatever reason,
Oh, doesn't it go that the implementers will follow the plan in good faith? How did you say that?
oh, I thought that was the
The
end.
good faith is towards the end.
Okay, alright, go ahead.
If for whatever reason,
The plan can be implemented. The committee should be promptly informed and consulted.
That's fine.
Because I know the consultant you were asking about. No? Oh, okay.
On how to deal with the problem. And in the absence of a decisive response, from members of the committee, the implementers will consult with each other to seek a solution. Making a good faith effort to act in accordance with the plan.
No, that's the end.
Yeah.
The implementers will consult with each other to seek a solution.
Right.
Period. No, seriously, that was what we said.
Okay.
As I understood it. Where is it?
I understood it was way before, so.
And then,
We have to figure it out.
I can't find this paper. Oh, here it is. 9, 10.
Well, I think it would be good to tack on making a good faith effort to fulfill the intent of the plan.
Oh, here, it's right on the top here. No, well, that's another thing you can say. The implementer's primary responsibility is to act in good faith in accordance with the plan.
Okay.
That's what we had. That's
And I say consistent.
Yeah. And you wanna say the other thing? Should we put that on the table?
So I wouldn't say it twice.
No, but should we put it in the table on better? And then the choice
The implementer's primary responsibility
is to act in good faith in accordance with the plan.
Well, I would say act in good faith to fulfill the intent of the plan, because talking about should be right at the plan detail.
And for acting in good faith.
To fulfill the intent of the plan.
I should wait for Kathy and Carol to get back to decide.
Yeah. Well, actually, because I had some amendments to this little portion as well. But mine deal more with promotion of the show and this, that, and the other stuff. I mean, I don't know if you want to make it part of this or a separate paragraph.
Well, could you explain what of it?
What? I can pass it out to you.
Oh, you have it.
I have it right. It's the last,
Oh.
the third amendment.
And this is to go with what?
This
whole
thing,
piece?
this radio committee shall blah blah.
Well, if it's about promotion, it should have its own place.
Okay.
And we should pick a
All
place.
right. You can do it at the end. It doesn't matter.
It's at the last after this.
Or the last paragraph when I said at the end of this document.
I had a small thing to say. The meeting, does it say that the meeting shall meet to appoint a, what's it called, an administrator?
The implementer.
An implementer, sorry, it says that. Well, again, the same point, does that imply that that's the only purpose of the meeting? You know, should it say the meeting should include, that's one of the things that the meeting should accomplish, not that it's the only, you know, that's the purpose of the meeting.
The main thing is the third amendment. You don't have to read all that other stuff. It's similar ideas to what.
Yeah, to this,
Yeah.
right.
My thing is the third amendment.
It's not, the purpose of the meeting, I don't think it's being said that it's to do the implement.
If it says the meeting,
Where are you talking? What we just said now? About the
it
implementation?
says the meeting, yeah, the committee shall meet to do.
The committee shall meet before each scheduled broadcast date to plan the program and to designate 2 or more persons who will be responsible for implementation.
Oh, so those are the only 2 purposes of the meeting. The only 2 things the meeting can do. You know, it just is an
Oh, I understand
exclusiveness.
what you mean. You don't want to be constrained.
Yeah, exclusiveness of the language.
It says to plan the program.
Yeah, so and that's a wide thing.
All right, okay,
I mean,
I
that's what the
understand.
committee exists for.
I understand. Yeah.
So, Sean,
Huh?
how would you like to tell me what your
Amendments are.
Oh, all right. Well, while we're waiting.
What'd she say?
While we're waiting.
Why are you waiting?
Sean's amendments.
For Kathy to get back in the room.
Can't you chair her absence? It's not fun. I mean, did she say how long she'll be gone?
I thought she went to,
Okay, so we'll just have to hear, we can move, no meeting stops because the person's facilitating the meetings.
Well, that's why I'm going to read my amendment here that I.
Thank you, Pat, for prompting that.
What?
I mean, it starts off with the radio committee will meet, blah, 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 blah. You can ignore that, we've already dealt with that. But the radio committee will meet before each scheduled broadcast date to plan the program in a collaborative manner. And that, this is my main thing here. And a designated member of the committee will be responsible for its promotion through use of a card, websites, the LSB hotline, various listservs, and the WBAI newsletter. A designated member of the committee will coordinate the scheduling of the shows with the appropriate WBAI department head or PD, whichever the case.
Do you have copies of that for everyone?
Give me one more. Oh, sure.
That's the third paragraph.
We have some down at this one. You want one?
Yeah.
Yeah, what is that? Do I have one?
Did you get one?
Doesn't look like it. All right, thank you.
Do you need one?
Oh my God.
So we're looking for the third one?
The third one, that's the main thing. It goes like hot water.
The amendment?
The third one.
This one?
The third one. The last one. There you go.
Oh, the last one?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
Got
Third
it.
one.
Got it.
Good girl.
Now let me hear your ABCs.
No, that's beyond.
Is everybody awake here?
Or if you turn it upside down, it's the one at the top.
If you can read upside down, yeah.
The sign will be one on the left.
Turn to the right. One to the right.
Yeah.
In a collaborative manner. We have to specify what kind of manner because we don't trust that.
Forget it. I said you can ignore that part. Just go with the.
No, I like it. I read it already.
Now, what if we don't plan the program in a collaborative manner? Does that mean there's no program?
We can storm out in a huff. How's about
There
that?
you go.
Every week it will be another exercise. Collaboration. I think it would be interesting to have a program planning the next program. On the air.
Does someone want to go find out? I don't understand why we're just sitting here.
Because we're reading.
I think it would be interesting to do that, to have people on the air planning the program. It would be an exercise in our work together. Yeah, and it would be eye-opening to the, what?
How to do boring radio? Is that the goal?
No, it would surely show the listeners the LSB in action, wouldn't it?
The point would be to try to work.
To show the committee in action.
Yeah, making
In
sausage
action,
on
not
that.
in action, in action.
Committee's
in action.
Right, that's right, or whoever, or what, it would stir a lot of discussion and thought, I think.
I think she went to zero.
I think that light fluctuates on and off based on the amount of hot air there is in the room. Yeah, I mean, stillness. Whoops, strongest one to find.
I don't know, there's a
But there's also the question of Albert's motion. There are questions that are raised by his motion.
Mm-hmm.
You voted on it?
No, we're waiting for you.
Now we have,
And while we're waiting, I introduced my little amendment there regarding the promotion of the show and all that stuff. But that's here in this third paragraph.
there are now two versions of the end.
Mine is not the substitute for the
No, that's not yours.
Oh.
I'm talking about what Frank said,
Oh,
as opposed to what we
Did you
said
say she was
before.
done?
This is just, this is the,
At the end.
Oh, the end.
the end, there were two phrases for the end of this motion. The radio committee shall meet.
This is exhibit 4.
Decide.
what? I said mine doesn't have to be.
Oh, should we decide, are we looking at yours now, or are we going to decide the other one?
Well, we
The
didn't.
other one.
We didn't finish that other one. That we need to vote on that. Mine can be a separate paragraph,
Okay.
a new paragraph, but mine because mine deals with promotion and all that stuff. So you don't have to deal with it at this very moment. We should finish all this language that we drafted up here.
Well, what I'm saying is that Frank had a different message to it that I have to consider. The radio committee shall be prepared to schedule broadcast date to plan the program and to designate 2 or more persons who will be responsible for implementation. If for whatever reason the plan cannot be implemented, the committee should be promptly informed and consulted on how to deal with the problem. In the absence of a decisive response from members of the committee, the implementers will consult with each other to seek a solution. The implementer's primary responsibility is to act in good faith in accordance with the plan. That's end of 1. The implementer's primary responsibility is to act in good faith to fulfill the intent of the plan. That's Frank's ending number 2.
Cool.
I think the phrase "a decisive response from members of the committee" is way too vague. You should just say "in the absence of a decision by the committee."
In the absence of a decision by the committee. That sounds all right. I'm not judging.
committee as a whole.
And the
As
abs-
we discussed earlier, you can't just say, 2 people feeling strongly or 1 person. That they must be guided by that automatically. Take into account, they might agree with it.
So you're saying in the absence of a decision by the committee, is that correct?
Which means a formal committee meeting, or conference call, or something that's, where the vote is taken, but in the absence of that, they take into account feedback and make the best decision.
Carolyn, has there anything?
Yeah, I think that's a little dangerous because that assumes that you're going to get the committee together to, and a decisive response implies that we're actually going to have a telephone opinion from a majority, let's say. That would be decisive. Or someone, you couldn't get the committee together, but you could have, you could reach most of the people by telephone, and that would be a decisive response. So I think a decision by the committee implies a formal meeting and a vote, whereas decisive would allow whoever's in charge to make inquiries and make a good faith effort to reach people by telephone or whatever to sort of pull their opinion. So I'm against decision because it forces you into a meeting with a vote. Whereas decisive, there's some leeway.
For your information, Bob, you're talking about the base meeting?
He didn't say that, yeah. He said it could be a phone call.
The phrase, the decisive response from members of the committee, I can be very decisive here, you must do it this way.
Oh,
So,
Yeah, it's vague, it is vague.
or even 2 of us or 3 of us could say, we firmly believe, is that a decisive response? No, that's 3 people expressing their opinion. The committee has a meeting or a conference call, and they can take a vote, and if they don't, then, I thought we had actually arrived at this point a few minutes ago, where there's a general agreement that you have to have some level of faith in the people that you've chosen collectively to designate as the implementers. And if they screw up, then you can talk about it at the next meeting, but you can't just kind of put them in a damned if they do, damned if they don't. Well, we thought it was decisive. Well, we didn't consider 3 people weighing in decisive. That doesn't go on endlessly.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Why, when Frank used decisive, I think he meant to imply a sufficient number, although that's kind of, so I'm wondering if we want really to be more concrete, if we want to say some sort of a ratio of because if 50% or 40% or what, probably in the, if it was a different kind of committee that had a quorum, probably it would be quorum that you would want to be able to reach, and if you didn't reach that, so if we want to make it concrete, we should probably choose a number. Otherwise, it's always going to be, there's always going to be a question of the decision that the implementers made, that was that really not enough people to consider their decision binding.
Kathy and Frank?
my intent was not persuasive in the sense of being, rhetorically most powerful. My intent was, as Pat suggested, decisive in the sense of there being enough numbers, enough of a skew, pro or con, that one could say that the committee had decided. So one would make a judgment that the committee as a whole seemed to be going one way or the other. So if you want to formalize it, specify majority of the committee, quorum or majority of the story. My good faith intent was to be enough people weighing in on it and being consistent enough on one side or the other that a reasonable person could say that, yeah, that's decisive. This time, judging from this sample, the committee really favors this action instead of that.
What I like about the by saying the decision of the committee, because it kind of gives, the decision will be able to be determined based on whether or not there's time for it. So you say it's the decision of the committee. So if it's 2 weeks ahead, plenty of time for the committee to meet and decide. 1 week ahead, still could meet. Days ahead, still could do a conference call. But still it should, I think decision is a good way to go, because this is an open open committee, and it has a lot of members, but who attends meetings are varied from week to week. So I could see that there needs to be some formal saying, well, this is where the conference call is going to take place, put that out to all the committee members, and then those who come in will represent the committee in that conference call. But I still think there needs to be some consensus bearing factor on the decision. So if there's not enough time to do that, then I think we have to let the implementers move forward. So I think decision is a good, I agree with decision. Because otherwise, you know, there has to be some gathering of the committee in some form. And if there's not time to do that, then 2 or 3 or 5 people weighing in, I don't think is.
I'll withdraw my objection.
Huh?
I'll withdraw my objection.
Yeah. So I think decision is good.
So now we have, in the absence of a decision by the committee, the implementers will consult with each other to seek a solution. The implementer's primary response is to act in good faith. A, in accordance with the...
Responsibility, not response.
I'm sorry, you're right, responsibility. The implementer's primary responsibility is to act in good faith, either A, in accordance with the plan, or B, to fulfill the intent of the plan.
I like to fulfill the intent of the plan.
Yeah, because.
Me too.
Because if it's in accordance, if it's in accordance with
Because they cannot fulfill the plan if something has happened which makes it impossible.
Right.
They can't fulfill the intent of the plan.
They cannot fulfill the plan if something has happened to make fulfillment impossible.
It's just justifying.
That's why they make a good faith attempt to do what the plan intended to achieve.
Oh,
as closely as they can within the limits of this unexpected alteration.
Right. So should we go with that? Should we have a vote of one or the other?
How many like intent? What is the vote? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
7.
How many like in accordance with?
Okay, so it's to fulfill the intent of the plan.
Though, it's more vague when you say intent, because then it presumes that people understand what the intent was.
Well, yeah.
Oh, intent, yeah.
Well, I like in accordance because
I withdraw my vote.
Right, but I mean, I don't mind.
I withdraw my
vote.
In the development of the plan, we would presumably discuss at length what it is that we're trying to achieve. We're trying to achieve a certain balance.
I don't know. All right.
So can we vote on this?
All right.
So now I think we have it.
Can you read the whole thing?
The radio committee shall meet before each scheduled broadcast date to plan the program and to designate 2 or more persons who will be responsible for implementation. If for whatever reason the plan cannot be implemented, the committee should be promptly informed and consulted on how to deal with the problem. In the absence of a decision by the committee, the implementers will consult with each other to seek a solution. The implementer's primary responsibility is to act in good faith to fulfill the intent of the plan.
I like that. So
We voting
can
on
we
that?
vote? How many vote to include this paragraph in our membership? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes. Did you get 8?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't count. Should I
Can we lift your hands again to vote for this
1, 2,
paragraph?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Okay. And opposed? Opposed? None?
Not my opinion.
Okay, and this is an amendment to this, or an amendment to add to,
To add
as
to.
fresh?
Yeah.
The third, the
The
third
third
part,
one?
yeah.
Okay,
I mean, you can get rid of that first sentence.
okay.
So maybe to correct the information, these are not the implementers, these are two people with more specified, restricted range of duties.
Right.
There'd be a lot of designated people, I think. Designated implementers, designated promoters, designated facilitators.
Okay,
Cast a foul.
So we have the implementers, the schedulers, and the publicizers.
okay. So can, designated, so can we say, let me say, committee, the radio committee shall designate a member for all these responsibilities? The radio committee shall designate a member who will be responsible for its promotion.
The use of private websites.
Yeah. And will designate a member who will coordinate the schedule of the show with the appropriate department head or program director, or PD. Does that make any sense?
For promotion through blah, blah, blah. And will designate,
What does the its refer
I'm sorry?
to? The its? The
Um,
promotion of its?
The promotion of the program. Of the schedule
Of the
report.
schedule report, okay. Will designate a member of the, it's, what I was saying is the radio committee will designate a member to, who will be responsible for its promotion, for the LSB,
promotion of the report.
for the promotion of the report, okay. For the promotion of the report. Well, I would say a person slash S, or member slash S, because it may take more than one person to do all these things.
I did them all in 2004.
that's the,
This person
Okay.
could get somebody to help, you know, ask for a volunteer to help.
Okay.
I'd also just insert at the
Because
end.
being
et cetera.
responsible for it doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it all yourself, right?
Right. Point of information.
Yeah.
The last sentence, scheduling the show with the appropriate WBAI department head or the PD, whichever is the case. Is it an either or there, or what? I don't understand the chain of command, I guess.
Well, the program director ultimately is responsible for all programming, and
So what
will
will the appropriate
ultimately,
department
will
head do?
ultimately give the space for this program to take place. So it's not that, you know, the committee member could speak directly to the program director, or could speak to a department head, but who would still ultimately have to speak to the program director.
Should that be and or the PD then?
No, the department head doesn't make
The final decision or the committee does?
Well, it says the appropriate department head or the PD, that's either or. And the explanation I'm getting is that it could be both.
It could be.
So
It
it
could
could
be
be
both.
department head and
What
or
I'm
the
thinking
PD,
is, I
right?
don't know if Ted, that before one goes to the PD with a request, it might be well to speak to the department head and kind of sound them out as to what would be, you know, convenient or welcome or unwelcome preemption of time or whatever. And after some negotiation or consultation that way, then take the request to the program director.
That's why I'm suggesting and or, so you don't just lose one.
Cerene, listen.
A couple of things. One is that the secretary actually is already responsible for website notices and the LSP hotline, so I don't see any need to involve anyone else in that process. Listservs, anyone and everyone should feel free to promote it. I don't know that the newsletter has been resurrected yet, but of course, if it is, then it should be utilized. I also think it's probably just simpler to have whoever is responsible for implementing that particular program to also be responsible for implementing the publicity around the program. Because if they're going to be, I'm sorry.
Different people.
I'm suggesting it shouldn't be different people. I'm suggesting that if in fact the implementers are going to be responsible for finalizing the programs and making sure that whatever is supposed to happen is happening, that they would be the people best placed to actually also handle the transmission of information should there be any change of whatever nature, instead of having then the two people publicize it and then the two different people are implementing it, and if there's a change, the implementers have to get in touch with the publicist, and it's not so deep. You can have the same two people who are responsible for getting the July show on, let's say, also handle the distribution of information with regard to that. And with regard to scheduling and so forth, the contact should be made with the PD, who is ultimately the person in charge of preemptions or of scheduling time. The programming department heads and the PD actually speak, well, last I heard. So it would be then his responsibility to get in touch with whichever person's, whoever's responsible for the program that's being preempted. I don't think you necessarily need to have 5 different people involved in the, you know, in the just finalizing the details of every program.
I'd like to understand.
Caroline, Kathy?
Yeah, I don't think this precludes having being the same person. It just says the committee shall designate, and it could easily, if the committee decides, be the same person or a different person. So I don't think the language precludes what Cerene is suggesting. But I do think it's important to, various listservs, comma, needs a comma before that final and. Second correction.
Say it again?
The various
After
listservs,
listservs,
comma, there
you
should
put
be
a
a comma before the and in a series, the final and the BAI newsletter.
Okay.
I would leave the newsletter in, even though it's moot at the moment, just for the language. And then the third point is, I would like to be very clear that it should be and or the PD, for the PD and or the department head. But I don't think one or the other should be excluded with a simple or.
I got you.
Kathy's next, and I'm adding myself.
Actually, Carolyn's thought was kind of very settling to me, that the fact that the committee is making this designation, it could be the same person if they feel capable of handling it or not. If a person can't handle the whole load, we can divide it. So to me, that answers any question I had.
On that point, I would just make it clear that we're not looking to have 5 people. For the promotion, it was just one person designated and one person designated to do the scheduling of the show. So you're looking at.
So you're talking about
Four people. Four people. And when I said websites, I wasn't referring to the LSB website. That's a whole other kettle of fish. I was referring to websites around,
the globe.
The globe. Thank you. And in terms of the LSB hotline, well, this person can also give that information to the secretary to put it on the LSB hotline. There's no conflict of interest there. There's no overstepping anyone's authority or boundaries. I just want to make that clear.
Can I?
There's no overstepping of authority or boundaries.
For what?
For the LSB hotline, the designated person would give that information to the secretary to put on the LSB hotline.
Can you put me back on the stand?
Oh, Frank has his hammer and then
Yeah.
Cerene. Okay. Frank, go.
Okay.